64.1 or 2 or 3. I tried every digit. 61 1 or 64 1, 64 2, none of nothing, no camera whatsoever. So I went on the iPad that has all the camera stuff, and up in the upper right hand corner, there's like a gear wheel thing. I clicked on that just to see what it was, and it came up with a bunch of info, and it had an IP address on that was completely different from everything else. So I copied that down and entered it into the computer.
The robotic one, okay.
And the robotics camera worked. Stationary camera never worked.
All right, well then maybe I need to stop for a little bit tomorrow and see what's cooking.
Yeah. So I was amazed when I hooked up the I mean, I tried to reboot the iPad many times,
You did it all.
you know, but I was just happy that I finally got a camera to work, you know.
I do love miracles. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks for the heads up.
Yeah, I got to thinking I should let whoever is broadcasting Sunday know about it ahead of time before they get there. And
Yeah, I got Saturday's thing due, so.
It's
always an adventure.
it is for me. It's like
For everybody.
every time I go in there, there's something that's
Oh, I mean, it is just. It is ornerier than Charlie Meach, yes.
I wish it wasn't that way. I wish it was a little more simple and we just go in.
Wish it wouldn't, figure out how to do things, but I don't know that there's anything that's gonna work
Yeah.
100% of the time, so.
Okay.
It's still easier than this.
Easier than what?
Than this. The affordable housing stuff.
Not for me.
Oh,
This is easier for me
all right.
than that.
This drives me up a wall most times.
No. It's easier for me here because
Yep.
you're here to take on the brunt of the working.
It's true.
So are you running into walls again?
Oh, we need to make some decisions tonight and see what kind of quality stuff we want to put up.
I still wonder about how this is all going to get financed.
Well, that's part of the deal too. Got a Zoom call with WIDA sometime, and another Zoom with LSIC.
What is LSIZA?
It is a large financial corporation that assists in rural development or in affordable housing, other things, community downtown redevelopment.
Oh, gentlemen, where are they located?
Pardon?
Where are they located?
They've got an office in Duluth.
In where?
Duluth.
One Duluth. Hi, Mark.
And about 20 other cities.
Okay. John.
Squeaky John.
Yes, that is me.
Hi, Squeaky John. How are you?
Well, I'm feeling a little better than I was yesterday. Boy, head cold. It went right into my lungs, and wow. Got my diaphragm a hell of a workout for the last 20 hours.
I hate it when I cough up toes.
Yeah.
It's your travels.
Those were good.
Yeah. Let's know.
We went up west coast out of LA. Sure, pretty much. How far we went up. I don't know. The ways. Well, that was pretty nice. She likes spending time on the ocean. So we tried to do that as much as possible.
That's not hard. Not hard to Imagine.
You picked a nasty ocean to spend time in.
Nasty.
It's cold, it blows, and they're big rollers.
Well, it's all right if you're not out on the water, just on the shore and looking out. It's pretty nice. So we didn't go out on the water. We just looked at it.
I understand. I do. Still
Because it's
remember
cold and
being at
maybe,
Morro Bay in March and having to hide behind a rock to get out of the wind. So,
yeah, that was pretty there. I mean, the whole coast is,
it
the
is-
further north you go, the better it gets and less people.
it is amazing, yeah.
I think we got up as far as Fort Bragg.
Okay,
Yeah.
oh, that's gorgeous.
Yeah, real nice. Then came back inland a little bit through the redwoods.
Those are pretty breathtaking, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah, so we had a good time.
You stop by the Lady Bird Johnson National Park then?
I think so.
Missed that. You didn't miss much.
It's hard to do everything. You don't even try anymore.
I'll leave a little for next time.
Don't try to, but I just pick the spots. Well, I see we got a request for more financing.
So
For something we didn't even ask for. That's pretty good.
I don't think it was for that.
We wanted to do drawings of fourplexes.
But not what he's already offered. Didn't ask us for any money for that little,
Oh, with the picture of things in Little Red Lines.
yeah. Well. Yeah. Everybody wants a little something.
Mhm.
Max, how's the new house?
Living in it.
Uh-oh.
We don't have a kitchen countertop or sink nor a shower, but the internet's coming, I think. They were, Jolma was there doing bringing the wire to the house. I don't know when Rado comes in, but you know, it's that classic 90% of it's done, but the last 10%.
Or that makes it a home is.
Last 10%
still missing.
is, yeah.
That other 90%. Yeah.
Hello.
Is anyone sitting here?
You are. And I should have brought the stuff I have for you.
You have things for me?
I do.
Okay.
Easter stamps.
Oh, I think I dropped them off today.
Oh, did you already?
Yeah,
Okay.
bubbles.
Yep,
Yep,
okay.
thank you.
You are.
She wasn't home, so she gets a surprise.
And lots of plastic plates.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah, thank you.
It'll be a few years before we have anybody who needs plastic plates.
Yeah.
Hello, Lois.
Good to see you.
How are you?
You?
I think you're gonna wanna sit this side if you're gonna wanna see what's going on every place else.
Apologies for missing last week or last month. It's my birthday. Right.
Well,
Figured it was a good enough excuse.
was someplace good?
For sure.
Oh, yeah.
We found a little cabin that was perfect. Anxious to hear all about your
excursion to the Dells.
Oh, well, we will tell you all about it.
Yeah,
It was a lot of driving for
Well, then we'll talk.
2 hour visit.
Oh.
How come?
Hello, hello.
Hey, Katie.
We can hear you loud and clear.
Excellent. I can hear you loud and clear also,
Now, I'll be careful what I say tonight then.
at least now. I could sign off and you can speak as you wish.
We did that already.
Okay, good. Phew. Look at all the people in that room. It's like summertime on the island. It's so exciting.
Be here tomorrow and I will be.
Yeah. No, we've been watching the weather. My dad texted me from the Twin Cities to tell me that there was basically a 35-degree difference between where I am and where you are yesterday.
Oh, yes.
Guess where I'd rather be? Not
God
here.
bless- God bless Northeasters.
Yeah. It's just too hot. It's too hot already. I just don't wanna. Although I did find morel mushrooms. Sam, I was totally channeling you. It was so fun. I
We
found
don't have
some,
them here.
I know, but I totally thought about you. I thought Sam would be so proud of me.
Yeah.
There you go. So, all right, we are at 5:02, so let's just get the show on the road. It is Thursday, May 8th, 2025, 5 p.m. The Affordable Housing Advisory Committee is now in order. Online, we have John Nielsen and Katie Sanders, and go ahead in the room, please.
Sam Dobson,
Charlie Brittle.
Mark Pass.
Lois Carlson.
Jim Peters.
Thank you all. All righty. Any public comment going on? Are you guys hearing that beep or is that just me? I'm hearing a weird chime. Okay. Okay, no public comment. Has everyone had a chance to look over the minutes of the meeting from April 10th? And if so, I would consider them for approval.
Make a motion to approve the monthly meetings of Affordable Housing Committee for April 10th, 2025.
Thank you very much.
I'll second.
Thank you very much. Is there any discussion? All in favor of approving, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Okay, the motion passes. Thank you. Okay, and now we're into our discussion topics. Let's kick off with what Lois was asking about. Let's hear about the Developer Summit.
Well, there were 4 of us that attended the Developers Summit a couple weeks ago down in the Wisconsin Dells. It was a very well-attended event with probably about 20 or 25 folks who were looking for developers and probably 20 to 25 developers. And then amongst the 4 of us, John, Mark, Michael, and myself, we kind of split up and spoke with everybody so that we could present them with our plans and followed up with everybody afterwards as far as what lot we have available, what our needs were. And we're still waiting to hear back from everybody but one person. Jabril Odagba is interested in our project, and he and 2 of his compatriots spoke with us for about an hour and a half a week ago.
Yeah.
It was a somewhat difficult to understand presentation. It felt more like sitting at the committee table answering his questions, and I couldn't quite figure out how he was going to help us a whole lot. But we'll stay in discussion and see where that goes. Each of us did set follow-ups to the developers that we talked to, and I did get a couple of short notes back, so I'll follow up there and see whether anybody is interested. In addition, was able to talk with the folks from PETA, and we have a connection with a lady by the name of Mai, we'll set a meeting up with and see what WIDA might have available as far as funding or suggestions as to where to go. So Mark and I exchanged a lot of stories for the 6 hours together in the car, and the other 2 hours were a wonderful book on tape. So it was probably a fair wash.
It was fine. It was fine. It was good. It was a good day. It was just good to see what other people are up to and sort of be able to gauge their reaction to our project.
What was the reaction?
Oh, yuck. No, they were, I think a lot of them were looking for lower hanging fruit. And most of them were located south of here, quite a ways.
Yeah.
And so some of them kind of still thought that we might still be like under a glacier up here. So some people really, I mean, we were only in the Dells and these were Wisconsinites and a lot of people had no clue
That's how they,
where the.
that's how northern Wisconsin is and always has been.
Well,
It's funny that the culture carries through even in that.
I mean, you can kind of understand that it might be, somebody might not know where Mason is. But if you don't know where the Apostle Islands are and you live in Wisconsin.
It's because the population
actually-
centers are in the east.
Yeah,
Okay,
so anyway, that was,
so no one was like really ready for a challenge.
not necessarily. We had nice
Okay.
conversation with people and I gauged our chances of engaging with any of them at about 15%.
Gotcha.
Were any of them actually interested in a project, a smaller project like we have?
That was
Is that
kind
turn
of,
off?
that was one of the places where it sort of felt like it broke off.
Most of them are looking for projects that they can use tax increment financing for. So that they can sell the credits and develop the spot or use it in some way that way. And usually they're looking for 40 or more units to
Yep.
put up. So
Yep.
Yeah.
the expectation was not great, but
Mhm.
it was a learning experience.
We know more than we did when we went.
Yes.
That's great.
Good.
John, what's your 2 cents worth there?
I agree with everything you've said so far. They were looking clearly, I think you summed up well, low hanging fruit, larger projects, units 40 plus. And so when we said, well, we're probably looking at less than a dozen, and we got a couple acres to work with, that you could almost see the facial expression of many of them, like, oh, okay. So there you are.
Did you guys get more of a sense that there was at least a growing awareness among the builders that this rural, I mean, the rural and perhaps sort of that more rural communities are going to need housing? Do you think that was sinking in more?
I
Certainly.
didn't sense that.
Okay.
In answer to your question, Katie, certainly, because that's what this was developed around.
Mm-hmm.
This was meant for rural communities to talk to developers and see what they could come up with.
But still looking for bigger projects. So interesting.
Well, you know, there was a lot of people there, a lot of developers. And at some point, you know, lower hanging fruit is a little higher. You know, first lowest stuff goes and then the higher and people will be looking for work at some point. But who knows when that'll be.
Okay. All right. Is this a good segue into the meeting with Ideal Homes?
Mark, you want to cover that?
We'll get started.
Okay.
So a little background, the way that we got in conversation with people from Ideal Homes is from Jeff Corey at One Roof in Duluth. And they have done at least one project with them, and I saw it. It's right off of Central Entrance, just before you come to the mall, if you're coming from Duluth. And it's a, is there about, I think there's 2 buildings that have 24 units in them. And these are like, they are only like dormitories. So they have a sink and a bedroom and a living area. And then they have common space that has a common kitchen and a place to gather. And so it turned out that Ideal Homes had been the contractor. So Jeff gave me a little background on it, and then he gave me a contact. And so I don't know, I started a couple months, maybe 3 months, 4 months ago, talking to them. And they are currently working on a project in Grand Marais that they believe that, I think that's, is it 60 units? And they believe that they can scale that down to fit our project size, or as we had more conversation, they also believe that they can build some, like they suggested doing some duplexes. So anyway, so Ideal Homes is from Superior and Barnum, and it's recently been acquired by the people that own it, maybe 2 years ago. Just in the, like, sort of in the middle of the project that they did for Jeff Corey. And Jeff said that it was a challenge because the learning curve was too steep for them. But he also believed that they had corrected most of the issues they had, and he said he would do business with them again based on the progress they've made. So Ideal Homes sells Dynamic Homes is the builder, the producer of the homes, and they are from Detroit Lakes. And it turns out that they can build them in just about any shape or form. And they are just getting started. They market themselves as full service, that they can do the whole thing. They can be the developer and the builder, and they could even run the place and help us with the financing. But as we talked a little bit more, a lot of the questions that they ended up asking us had to do with well, where are you going to get your money? But they have a couple of examples of how they have done it in Grand Marais that may be appropriate here at some point. So it was 3 people, the owner of Ideal Homes, the project manager for them, and the sales rep for Dynamic Homes came and visited us here. Is that about 10 days ago?
Yep, last Thursday, a week ago.
And so we walked the property with them and talked about places where the houses could be situated. And then we went over, sat at my place and rolled out everything they had on a table and looked at pictures of things that they had done and brainstormed a little bit. And they talked to us. So their products are stick-built homes. They build them in a factory, and they build them by their reckoning, without us seeing it, but they use first quality, not not luxury quality, but first quality wood and trim and Kohler faucets and, stuff that is built to last. Because we told them that one of the things that we wanted to be sure of is that if we did get this project going, that we wanted something that would last and require very little maintenance anytime in the future, in the near future, and that would make us all look good. that we wouldn't be building something that turned out to be junk and start falling apart almost as soon as it was built. And so there was some discussion about that. And I'm sure that if we ask them, they would furnish us with a list of who their main suppliers are. They talked about, what did they say, their R values were higher than required for here, wasn't
With
that?
R55 in the ceiling.
Yep.
Probably 35 or 40 in the walls. And they're all built tight enough so that you need an air recirculator.
So we agreed to continue exploring.
Yep, the CEO of Ideal Homes is a youngster. He's got some seasoning to be had. The site manager knows what he's doing, and the guy who's in marketing for Dynamic Homes knows what he's doing. This is probably something that would look quite similar to what Legum would put up. It's more expensive to put up. It needs cement crawl space underneath. But probably comes together pretty fast once you've got folks on site. They've done work with Red Cliff and Bad River and have several contracts with Bad River at the moment for affordable housing and for their community center. So they know the area. They weren't particularly fond of the Skyline product.
Okay.
But, that's their opinion. They thought Town and Country might be a little bit better, and they do handle those in the Ideal dealership. So what else can I tell you? The modules that they build are 14 feet wide and can be up to 60 feet long. They do about 80. Dynamic, who builds the houses, does about 83% of them as customs. So
Okay.
they have the ability. It takes about a month once they get it up and running to do the build. So.
Okay.
And finally, John, we got an email back today that wanted $500 for drawings for their stuff. So we'll see what comes of that.
Yeah, well, I think maybe we're not quite ready to tell them to start drawing, but some more conversation.
Yep.
Cool.
The Dynamic Homes, what did they say, 95% owned by, was it Ho Chunk?
Oh yeah, they're
Tribe.
they're owned by a tribe in Nebraska. So they've done a lot of work on the reservations.
Okay. Wow, that's a lot. All right. Charlie, do you want to talk about LISC?
Yeah, I've been traveling recently, so I haven't gotten back to speak to or schedule things with Keegan yet.
Okay.
Keegan is with LSIC down in Wisconsin. LSIC is a big funding organization for community development and housing. So anybody who wants to, please send me an email and I'll schedule some time with us to speak with him and see what suggestions he might have.
Okay, very cool. Excellent. And actually, this might have segued better. Mark, is there any update on the multifamily modular?
On the
stuff?
what?
Sort of or I have multi-family, but I think, did we mean multi-level? Which was, I guess you've already talked about the one roof project.
Yeah.
I think that was, okay, I think we already covered that, so, all right. And then last but not least, Max, is there any further, anything from, City of Ashland?
I think you saw the email, Kathy Beechman went to the board. They have an interest in continuing to talk with us, and they wanted to know where we were at. And I said, well, we have a meeting tonight. But they're interested in working with us. I didn't give them a lot of details about the timeline. So that's up in the air, but they are willing to get involved potentially in or managing whatever we put together.
So we are, one of two boards that need to weigh in. What is your impression about the town board and how they would feel about continuing discussions?
Well, I think whenever you guys want to get that on the town board agenda, then, we can, I assume the town board would be amenable to that. And I would just bring that back and then probably get Kathy Beeksma involved with somebody on the advisory committee, and I would step back out of it. But she was very interested in the first meeting. I think she sees it as a kind of job security for her staff if they could get involved in this.
Sure. Okay. Any thoughts or discussion on this topic from folks around the table? John?
Are you talking rental or ownership?
This is management in general, just, so I don't know that, well, I mean, then it would be applicable to rental. So do you care to continue the discussion at our next meeting, or, what's the feeling in the room?
Probably, as long as we've got a little bit of time, it would be worth taking the pulse of the committee as to where we go from here. Do we go ahead with the skyline and the single units? Both, we got a nice price point for the Genesis and for the Heritage, or whichever 2-bedroom they picked. Or are we looking to do something that is a little higher in quality? So I need a little bit of direction that way as to where to start funneling things. So I'd be interested to hear the opinions in the room.
Would this be rentals or would this be buildings that people would buy to own?
I think we're still talking rentals, John. At least I'm still talking rentals. I can't speak for the rest of the folks here.
I think we started talking about trying to put up rentals just for the easiest opportunity for housing to begin with, and then looking at sales following occupancy of rentals.
I am on the same page. Go ahead.
What was the price per square foot of the units that we're talking about Or did we,
Oh, the ideal pumps?
yeah,
Maybe 200, but I'm not quite sure what, 200 to 250, but that may just be the stick stuff,
okay,
just their build.
Hmm.
And I had to kind of put a half Nelson on him to get that number out of him, so.
Mhm. Yeah, that is considerably more expensive than what we're talking about with the other, with the Skyline models, right? Because that was, I don't remember the square footage, but didn't Michael say something about like 120,000 per
Yeah.
unit? Yeah. Right. And yeah, and I'm not sure what their level of quality is. I suppose we could make more inquiries as to, I appreciate that you got the information about, it's not luxury, but it is going to endure for a while. So at least we know what we're investing in, like any potential new homeowner. That would be helpful to know in advance. I don't know. I mean, there's a part of me that, as a member of this committee for a number of years, that I feel like we are, if we don't just make an arbitrary decision, we kind of triage ourselves to death. And I guess in that case, I would make the decision to go for a lower price point in the hope of getting something built sooner than later. How about anyone else?
I wouldn't argue with that.
I would. I struggle
Yeah.
with building things and until we know more. It was one thing to have the people who, from Ideal, who we believe to be honest, but we understand that they are in the business of selling.
Mhm.
And they are also accustomed to selling their product against something like a Skyline. They were quite familiar. And they have a line that is similar, but they claim maybe uses a little better materials.
Okay.
So I think that
Mark, do you know the name of that?
Town and country.
yeah.
Oh, that was the Town and Country. Okay,
Yeah,
sorry.
John's seen those units.
So
Okay.
I think we owe it to ourselves to find out for ourselves.
Okay.
And I'm not sure exactly how to do that because, I could look at the different kind of materials they use and do some research and maybe figure out what the life expectancy of some of them are. I don't think they'd look that much different on the outside,
Yeah.
but all of this work that we're going to, if the best we can do is something that is just a little better than a tent, then I'm out.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's keep going around the table. So Jim, do you have a thought?
Well, I think it's pretty much decided that we're going to go with rentals at this time, which I think has always kind of been the goal. And I'm not sure if these different developers do fourplexes, because anytime I think you do a multiple dwelling structure, it's cheaper square footage wise. Charlie says, no, it's not.
The problem with the foreplay, anything more than two, you need a sprinkler system.
Yeah.
And sprinkler system here means that I gotta dig a hole and make an underground pool to provide the sprinklers, which raises the cost significantly.
So then we're back to maybe duplexes as
Yeah.
the biggest unit we'd make.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And then it's what it's gonna cost for the common wall stuff, so.
So even duplexes,
Might not be
Monetary wise.
much more efficient than the other than you can put them in a little bit smaller footprint.
So if we do single dwelling units, how many are we proposing?
Well, you've got the Maxfield report that says 20. But I don't think I'd be that brave. I think somewhere between 8 and 10 would be a pretty good number to start with.
Okay, and that brings us back to this funding. It's always been an issue. And you did mention that Ideal Homes may have some financing.
Mark and I heard about a revolving loan fund where you could get folks to contribute for a 2 to 3% return, put their money in for 5 years, and then hopefully you find other folks that would do it from there. The mix that they were talking about was a combination of low income, as in, I think, 60%, and then another at 80%. And then some market rate stuff in the development also. And they were quoting somewhere around an 8 to 12% return. So we'd have to look at those numbers, and then we'd be building something that would be a little bit different than what we're currently envisioning to do that financing.
So will most developers help out with figuring out the financing for these units?
I think some of them will, but we're probably on the hook to figure a lot of that out. Thankfully, my education is going to continue, as I'll probably be on the finance committee for check bill too. So
The check belt isn't going to work for us. From what I
do well, if somebody dumps a big pot of money on them, yeah, then they can work for us. But so far, they haven't found any pots of gold at the end of the rainbow either. So the committee, when I last listened to them at the board meeting, they weren't terribly excited about picking hard projects to begin with. They need a couple chip shots to go with first.
So that's one in Washburn.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, they were working.
That's the Sinair going, and we did have a chance to speak with Sinair down in the Dells too. And she, yeah, I got all your information. We'll see how this goes.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of when we're done seeing if this can be rented. So we're talking a couple of years at least down the road.
So they're concerned about filling the 40 units they're building?
They don't. Yeah. Well, I mean, rightfully so. Everybody should be concerned about that. And, the dynamics are sort of running wild right now. So nobody knows from one day to the next what things are going to look like. But she sort of intimated that this was new territory for them. And so she would like to feel comfortable that it could all get rented. And then, but having said that, she probably will say the same thing next year and the year after. So I didn't feel like that was going to go anywhere.
Okay, I want to sort of try to reclaim the question a little bit and get Sam and Lois to weigh in too. So I had said lower price point. And I think that everything that Mark and Jim have brought up is germane to the discussion, but do you have a gut reaction, either of the two of you?
Well, I am always for as good quality as you can get for money, so I would hate to see us put something up that wasn't, that couldn't stand the test of time and be a place that people can be happy to live, not just feel that it's what they can afford to live in.
Okay, thank you. Sam?
Yeah, I'm also the built to last sentiment too, but for me, it's also understanding what the actual numbers are and what that difference is, because if it's not a wide difference, then, or I guess the materials they're using is what I'm getting at.
Right.
So I just think I would say built to last, but I also say that without knowing what the actual numbers are. And that could change that for me.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, so part of where we find ourselves again is in our frequent spot of which is to come first. And what we're trying to sort of get out of it is, you know, whether or not we continue the discussion with Ashland and how we present that to the town board while we are trying to hopefully write a grant this fall for the financing to help us.
So
And
I have a question.
yeah,
So a lot of, like grant opportunities and whatnot, there's always a amount that you're trying to shoot for, or that they're offering. Is there certain fall off points where it would make a difference to go bigger or lower? Do you understand what I'm asking?
Yeah, I understand what
Okay.
you're asking, but
Okay.
I still don't know what's out there.
Okay.
So I don't.
Just if there's
I don't-
something
I
we're
don't
looking
have
at
enough-
in mind, if
Well, the
one
grant-
falls off the scale because it's just too much or it's
yeah.
not enough, I guess.
I think the grant I was referring to specifically is the one that we've missed for April that is coming back around, and just our desire to try to make application for it, because at 1% interest, it's not going to get any better than that unless people just decide to give us money for free. And that's been our primary interest in hoping to write that grant. But we've got a few months to get our proverbial ducks in a row for that.
You got about 6 years yet, Katie.
Mm.
It's available till 31.
Woo, okay.
However, they only give it to developers.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Well, are we talking? Yeah, I guess that's true. It was with developers. Yeah, we did need to have the developer. I didn't realize it lasted till 31. Thanks for telling me that.
There was some information I got for that drive, yeah.
They were a pretty good presence there.
Oh, fun. Okay. Very interesting. Well, good, because people need it. Okay.
Yeah, Mark and I brought a lot of bling back.
Oh, I see. The truth comes. Little Mardi Gras beads for everyone.
Yep.
Yes.
Good.
Lots of pens and eyeglass cleaners.
Okay. Good. Okay. So
Hey, Katie,
So
quick
we've had this-
question, if I could just, in this topic area right here, have we had a chance to consider talking to some potential buyers or renters of these units and ask them what their feelings are and what their needs are and what their budgets are?
So John, we've done the survey and then we've done the RFP. Have you read those? I mean, I think you've gotten those, right?
And what I'm talking about, let's instead of a survey that's a whole community wide, I would like to talk to some actual individuals that are interested in renting these.
Mm.
They're on the island, they're living there now. But I'd really like to hear what their limitations and what their expectations are.
I think you're gonna be in the catbird seat most of the summer to ask.
Boots on the ground research.
Yep.
I've been asking
All
this
right.
question in the community a lot.
Sure.
And I don't necessarily feel comfortable sharing because I feel like a lot of it was said in confidence, but it's been interesting to hear people's opinions just on what we're up to, because I've been kind of like, are you aware? And a lot of them don't know. And then I update them on where we're at. And then the question kind of goes to, what would you be interested in seeing? Like, what is in your means? And the number's low.
Mm-hmm.
is very, very low. And that's why I say with hesitation, built to last, because I understand like we are in this conundrum of,
Yep.
Yep.
so it was interesting hearing it from a number of people of varying demographics, age-wise too.
Yep.
When you talked about the number being low, were you talking about?
The ability
amount that
to afford,
Ability to
yeah.
pay.
and then to ability to buy. So I'm glad that we are talking more rental than buying, because I see that it across the board, rental is so much more important in the conversation than buying
Yeah.
at this point. And that's everybody I asked.
Well, and I think it's subsidized versus rental also, because, you know, rental subsidized is not, what we're doing.
So the question begs to be asked more and more to as many people that we can have this conversation with, because it is not a question of will the 10 units fill? For me, absolutely, they will fill if it is in the price point of the people who need them. Because there are a lot of people who need and are doing the shuffle right now.
Yeah.
Yep. And I just for the sake of argument, because I have not set foot in either the Skyline or the Town and Country, I want to be careful with how we've just framed this conversation, because I don't know. Yes, the Skyline is a lower price point, but I don't know that that necessarily inherently means that it is of poorer quality. So I would have to rely on someone who has crawled through both. And I think,
Well, I think it would be valid to get the materials list for both and to really look at what they're putting in both of them. And comparing that, I think it would answer this question.
okay,
Well, it would be getting the materials list and then having somebody who is at least more qualified than me to look at that materials list and say, yeah, there's a significant difference here, not much difference here. These materials will be good for the next 50 years.
Because
These
that's
materials
the
will not.
number I'm looking for, is how many years are these built to last?
so what if we get 25 years? There are
Versus
plenty of
what, though?
houses, there are plenty of houses on the island that were built about 25 years ago and are now at the end of their lives.
That number,
I mean, I'll speak to this just because my house is about that age, about 24, 25 years old. And we have 50-year guarantee on our metal roof. So that still has 25. We had some decking that needed to be replaced this last year to keep the warranty up. We have hardy board siding, which is still good. And so I think, you know, that's, those were decent material choices. And it's, you know, it's not the highest end, it's not the lowest end.
That number's a little low for me, 25. I don't know, the 10 years I've been here plus have gone fast. That's how I think of that. And especially if we want people to be considering buying these, I think there's good conversation to build something to last if down the road.
Yep.
You want to sell these.
Well, right, and that's just purely devil's advocate to throw out a number, because, right, I would prefer 50 or 75 years or whatever, but I think, I don't know, if we built 5 or 6 houses or 5 or 6 units, would it give us enough breathing room? You know, we do the 25-year plan for those 6, and then we can improve our quality once we get a little air under our wings.
Yeah, well, once you build 5 or 6 that are not great quality, it won't take very long for people to figure that out. And then when we go back to the well, people will not have very much trust in us.
Again, and I don't disagree, what I'm looking for is what the priority of the committee is. Do we house people?
I think
Yeah.
that we, I think that we need to have more information.
It's fair.
Charlie and I sat and listened to one proposal that claimed to be pretty high quality. And during that time, we brought up the Skyline and the price point for that. And they were prepared to have a conversation about that and explain to us, in their opinion, why that was a poor choice for even medium term.
Okay,
So that's just what we heard from one set of people who clearly have a bias.
right.
So I believe that before we rule anything in or out, we need to be able to compare apples and apples.
As best we can.
And if you ask anybody around, what does it cost to build a house these days per square foot? You know, the number usually won't even start with a 2. It'll be a 3.
I'm familiar.
Or more. So when somebody tells you that they can build you a house for 100 and whatever a square foot, the person ought to be a little leery of that, because there aren't anything that's free. So I believe that to satisfy ourselves, we need to investigate. And if we can determine that they are better quality than we've been led to believe, or we could have a conversation with the people that build them and say, we're interested in your project, but we don't want that particle board for trim, and we don't want cheap siding. And so what would it cost to up the quality of that model that you just showed us to something that'll last 50 years? And maybe they'd engage, and maybe they'd say, well, this is what we sell.
Cool. No, I think those are all very valid. Okay. So let me add it to my list. Well, I will start trying to track down the lists and see what I can bring for our next meeting. And maybe having a discussion with the guy from Skyline. Are there additional topics for next round?
So how would Michael start that conversation? He's got a connection with them.
Yeah. Yeah, I can make an inquiry and see. Otherwise, I mean, they're just in town. I can trot myself over there.
Okay.
I have a question. It's more speculation because we don't know the answer to this, but with everything's on a delay right now with cost. And these are numbers that we're getting right now.
Yep.
So I've also, in answering these questions, thinking about it's pretty much 30% increased costs for building. You know, so like, are we expecting this number to also, I mean, do we know if these materials are being built with, do you know, like more like local or?
People from Dynamic told us that, do I remember this right? They said that they had bought futures. So they have all the lumber they need for quite
Okay,
a while.
okay,
However, if the value of lumber goes up, no matter what you paid for it, it's pretty likely you're going to want to charge more for it.
right.
So and I just this morning when I was driving here, there was discussion about this increase on the price of Canadian timber,
Mhm.
Which is not here yet, but it is, who knows? Who knows what?
Yeah,
But if it did, it seems naive to believe that it wouldn't cost. no matter what,
Mhm.
because eventually they're gonna have to replace the lumber they're building with, and it'll cost more.
Thank you.
Here's a, I'll interject right here. The little guest cottage that we put up on our property was built by a Amish family just north of where I live here in Bloomer, Wisconsin in the wintertime. And they harvest their own lumber from their own forests that they own through that whole family in that whole area there. So they're not at all concerned about any tariffs and things like that. They just go out to the woods and cut what they need, mill it out, and build their homes.
Will they come to the island? That's the question.
Yes. Yeah, they came, they built my home, my guest home was a custom build and built to specifications that could fit onto a trailer and be transported up on the ferry. And when it was delivered there, they all came up in a great big 14-passenger Ford van, and it looked like a clown car as they opened up the door and they all piled out, and they just, within an hour and a half, they had it set on the piers and the deck out, and it was all done. They were ready
Yeah.
for lunch.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have a lot of Amish builders here too. They are formidable. Okay. Have you made any inquiries if they accept larger projects?
Yes, in fact, the commander of this family has got several projects up there on the island and in Bayfield and Washburn. And one of the things he was excited about when he came up with the whole team, he brought a whole bunch of his family up just so he could take them around and show them on the way home these other projects that he had done there. And of course, all the kids wanted to go down and put their feet in Lake Superior as well. That was pretty exciting for them.
Nice.
So that was good. But the trouble is that they don't have telephones. And I've tried 3 or 4 times to get over there and meet with them. And if you're not there at like between 6:30 and 7:15 in the morning, you won't find him in his office. He's in the shop building homes and things like that. So a hard person to get hold of. And they've got a builder designer at one of the local lumber yards that will help you get state certified plans with your specifications. And then he gives them to the Amish family and they build it. Now they built like 5-bedroom homes and they just do them in modules so that they build a module, they bring it up in it's able to be transported on the roads. And then when it gets to the site, then they mate it to the other modules and make it all one unit. I mean, these walls in this little guest house, they're like 12 inches thick. The floor is 16 inches thick, and it's unbelievable.
That's where you go for the tornadoes.
Yes, exactly.
Wow. Well, something to keep in the back of our minds for sure. Okay. Is there any, I'm going to move along with the agenda, unless anyone has further discussion. All right. Any public comment B?
So before we go any further, do we have some direction? Do we decide anything? Or is our next step to investigate the quality of the couple different products that we've been talking about, or what are we gonna do next?
So my understanding is I will then try to track down the sheets for each construction model, Skyline, and then the Town and Country, and hopefully we will have something that, first of all, they're willing to give up, and B, that is, going to be apples to apples. And yeah, so I think that that's my understanding of where we're at in terms of where it links to continuing the conversation. We first need to present to our town board an idea of what it is that we're expecting before we go over to Ashland and say, here's what we're hoping to achieve. Is that correct?
I know not necessarily. We can be in talks with the Ashland Housing Authority.
Okay.
And see whether they're willing to be the developer, to be the managers for the rental property. That's probably the way to go before we take it to the town board, because the town board's just gonna look at it and say, why are you asking us yet when you haven't put it all together? So, but maybe Sam feels differently. I don't know.
That makes sense. More players agreeing to support it, the better. So I agree with that.
Okay. Sounds good to me.
And if any of you
Um,
guys are gonna be coming south at all along 53, Town and Country Homes has got these two models that I set the links to in Eau Claire, and they're model homes that are open and just exactly as they're priced. So if you're in Eau Claire passing on through, you can stop on in at pretty much any time during regular business hours and find them.
all right. Thanks, John. Okay. Any further follow-ups? So we've got to discuss, in past years, we have gone to a summer schedule by June. I have not had a 9 to 5, well, 8 to 4:30 job in those years as chair, and now I do. What are people feeling like meeting times moving into summer?
5 is still fine.
Yeah.
For me too.
Okay, so 5 o'clock on Thursdays is still gonna work?
Yeah.
All right. Don't want to interfere with croquet or anything up there. Just saying. Okay, then.
It's just yoga, just yoga. You mess up yoga.
Sorry, I am sorry. Tell Marnie I'm sorry. Okay, so then what are we looking at for June? We are looking at the second Thursday in June is the 12th. At 5 p.m.
It's all right.
Okay, I may
That
have
one,
a
that might be the Island Chefs exhibition date.
I heard it was.
Oh, there's not going to be a chef's exhibition this year.
Okay, all right. That's all right.
I may need to be in La Crosse, but I will let you know in advance and we can figure it out, but 5 p.m. the 12th. Okay. Very well. If no one has anything else, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll move that we adjourn.
Thank you. I'll take that as a first and a second. And having no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Take care.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
All right, good to see you. Take care.